My Journey into Lemons. There must have been 400 people in the large hotel banquet room, and they were all lying on their backs, screaming. When I looked around, I saw that I was one of them. Some were writhing and twisting, some immobile on the floor, frozen in discovery. Then, one of the trainers saw me and started purposefully in my direction, and I lay back and scrunched my eyes shut. It was morning and evening of the second day. As was frequently the case, it was my brother Roy who turned me on to a new experience. He had attended an EST weekend, found it helpful, and suggested I try it. Erhard Seminars Training, EST. It was very much in vogue at the time, before Werner Erhard got into trouble with the IRS and the name of his movement got changed. People everywhere from all walks of life were either raving about it or condemning it with equal zeal. My wife Deborah, a licensed therapist, had heard a great deal about it and explained it was just a shrewd new combination of old familiar methods, suggesting, tongue-in-cheek, that she could cure whatever was ailing me, and the price was right. Nonetheless, she tolerated my attendance so I could satisfy my curiosity. Deborah had also heard that some of the EST techniques bordered on the abusive, and when I asked her to go with me, she said she might be willing, under circumstances, to be called an asshole, but was not willing, under any circumstances, to pay for it. My actor buddy, Herb Edelman, told Roy about EST. Among many other roles, Herb was one of the card players in the Odd Couple film, the telephone repairman in Barefoot in the Park, and Maud's ex-husband in the TV series. They became acquainted when Roy answered a newspaper ad for a car, a Rover. My brother's tastes can be somewhat esoteric. The man on the phone described the car glowingly, and it was immaculate, pristine, enclosed with stanchions and velvet ropes so no one could touch it. My brother was hooked and said he'd like to see it. The man asked his name, Roy Rogosin. Long pause. Are you any relation to Joel? I'm his brother, Roy said. Pause. Believe me, you don't want this car, the man said. It's a piece of junk. Of course, the man was Herb, and so he led me indirectly to EST. The first day was notable for the number and diversity of the participants. I was surprised, despite EST's widespread appeal, to see how many people had turned out. We were seated in tight-packed rows of folding chairs, about 20 rows with at least 20 in a row, and monitored by the trainers, who moved about obtrusively, keeping a watchful eye on the proceedings. The principal speaker, the leader, gave us the ground rules, I'm tempted to say, read us our rights. But it quickly became apparent that those were about to be taken away from us, which included silence, attentiveness, cooperation, responsiveness, and something we'd all heard about but didn't believe. No bathroom privileges until the leader announced them. I noticed that several women got up and left then and there. In the hours that followed, there was lecture and diatribe and sharing. The whole gamut of emotion, which erupted so spontaneously that it was stunning. People bared their souls, blurted out their most personal histories, their miserable baggage, and their intimate, unfinished business with alacrity, as if they'd been saving it up for years, which I'm sure some of them had. I felt sorry for them. They must have been lonely with their failed relationships, infidelities, illegitimacies, abortions. Maybe, as advertised, they just found this a safe place, a refuge. After a while, a feeling of camaraderie developed among the participants, and so did the Stockholm Syndrome, the phenomenon of hostages identifying with their captors. And then they lowered the boom on us. Row by row, we were instructed to remove sweaters and jackets, stash purses and clipboards, and silently file on stage, naked and unprotected. Towing an imaginary line near the apron, arms and hands by our sides, eyes straight ahead, no talking. Meanwhile, the trainers moved across the line, haranguing and intimidating each person in turn. The in-your-face effect was startling, unnerving. Several people cried. 1 or 2 fainted. On day 2, we arrived to find the large room empty of chairs. An ominous sign, I thought. Apparently, only a few people had dropped out overnight, although without the rows of chairs, the number of willing participants was difficult to estimate. The hours were again filled with lecture, discipline, and exercises, some standing, some seated on the floor, some lying down. The overall tone seemed less restrictive, not friendly exactly, but somehow gentler. Maybe we were becoming injured. Among other things, we were taught to set a mental wake-up alarm, which I tried later and found useful, except that I'm an insomniac. My problem is falling asleep, not waking up. Then there was the gut-wrenching and disconcerting screaming. I thought all that emotional release was self-conscious and undignified. But I gave it my best shot with a couple of lusty yells, which I'm afraid may have lacked conviction. I have to say, there were a couple of mind games that were fascinating. One suggested that, as we continued to lie on our backs, we imagined a room. That seemed simple enough, although I didn't understand the significance. The silence, as we conjured, was a relief. I was skeptical about this exercise, about being asked to visualize on demand, but I shut my eyes and tried to relax. I let my mind wander, and then, slowly, a particular room began to appear, dissolving in, as in a dream or a movie. My room was very specific, small and cozy. It seemed round, perhaps an octagon shape, and was constructed of rough wood, like a cabin. But it was well appointed, with comfortable furniture that seemed to be from a specific period. There was a back door. How did I know that? A Dutch door with the top half open, a view of inviting green pasture undulating into the distance under a cloudless blue sky. Even today, the scene is vivid and comforting, freezing, and I remember wondering if I was seeing a particular image of heaven or just being suggestible. After a few moments, we were released. There may have been a break about then, I'm not sure, but the most vivid and dramatic excursion was yet to occur. We were more comfortable on the floor now, relaxed, eyes closed, minds open. The leader's voice was softer, more congenial, or perhaps it was a different person. After a time, I thought I heard the voice say, "When you feel you're ready, you're going to take a journey through fruit." Through fruit? I felt my initial skepticism returning, and even some annoyance. I was not into guided imagery. My eyes flickered open, but I forced them shut, listening to the soothing, encouraging voice as it moved about the room, coming closer, then falling away. I tried to concentrate. I gave up. I tried again. I was vaguely disappointed. But soon, a picture began to form behind my eyes, and I began to recognize it as a lemon. I surveyed the rough outer surface closely, then I slipped inside, moving through the cool, refreshing pulp, seeing the intricate yellow tissue magnified, touching it, smelling the tart fragrance and tasting and feeling the welcoming lemon all at once. Experiencing the lemon, being inside it, seemed quite natural and pleasant. I held on to the embracing sensation as long as I could, and when it began to slip away, to fade out, I felt a sense of loss and sadness. Of course, the mind-expanding implications were not lost on me, and occasionally I've tried to recreate the lemon, but without success. Perhaps if I found myself in that kind of controlled environment again, it would be possible, but I doubt it. I'm grateful to my brother Roy, and to Herb Edelman, who is sadly gone now, for suggesting Est. I'm glad that during our training, the three of us never cried or fainted. Most of all, I hope Herb is content with his final journey, wherever it took him. And I wonder if it was as surprising and mysterious as my journey into lemons.